Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into day 28 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal sex trafficking trial. It feels like a really pivotal moment.
Absolutely. The prosecution basically laid their final cards down, data-heavy cards.
Yeah, setting quite the stage for the defense, aren't they? We've looked at court reports, analyses, trying to give the essential shortcut here, especially as this trial seems to be speeding towards a conclusion.
And it's fascinating, how they chose to wrap things up, their whole evidentiary phase, strategically ending it this way.
Right, so let's talk about that. Day 28,
Yeah,
it was pretty much all about one witness, wasn't it?
almost entirely. Special Agent Joseph Cerciello, Homeland Security Investigations.
He was the prosecution's final witness.
That's right, their anchor leg, you could say, tasked with presenting this just mountain of digital and financial evidence, meticulously compiled stuff.
Okay, so not emotional testimony more.
Yeah.
Data.
Exactly. He was a summary witness. His job wasn't about personal stories. It was about laying out a comprehensive, data-driven narrative, taking all these separate pieces, texts, emails, payments, and weaving them together.
Trying to make it make sense for the jury.
Precisely. It's a strategic move, really. They want the jury's last impression before the defense starts to be grounded in these, verifiable-looking facts. It directly supports that big charge, the racketeering conspiracy one, showing an alleged organized enterprise.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics he presented. What kind of details are we talking about?
Incredibly specific. He had charts, for instance, mapping out encounters involving Jane, one of the alleged victims. And these encounters were directly linked to payments. Payment from Sean Combs' Amex, or maybe cards belonging to his staff.
Direct financial links.
And one email, this was pretty striking, it explicitly told someone using a Team Combs alias, presumably staff, to pay Jane $5,000 via Venmo. And the memo, apparently, specifically mentioned an escort.
An escort.
Yeah.
Right there in the payment instruction.
Yeah. Which, definitely raises questions about control, maybe coercion, just from those financial trails.
Makes you wonder.
And then there were texts, a series from September 2023 involving Jane. Initially, she texted some really strong resistance. Things like, I don't want to be used and locked in a room to fulfill your fantasies.
Strong words. But she went anyway.
But eventually, yes, the evidence showed she complied and traveled.
That certainly pushes back against the idea of purely uncoerced consent, doesn't it?
It does. It complicates that narrative significantly.
What else did Cerciello detail? I heard about some unusual requests.
Alleged requests from Combs for hotel supplies. Things like 20 bottles of baby oil.
20.
And Cialis. These were linked in communications to what they called freak-off sessions.
Freak-off sessions, that's the term they used.
That was the term presented, yes. And there were even messages, allegedly from Combs, complaining to an escort service about a male escort who, quote, couldn't even perform.
Complaining about the service provided, essentially.
Seems like it. And look, these specifics, combined with dozens of explicit sex video clips featuring Jane, which Agent Cerciello testified he picked from thousands he had to review.
Thousands.
It's all aimed at showing the alleged nature, the frequency, the sheer scale of these elaborately produced sexual performances, as the prosecution framed them. It really reinforces the severity of the sex trafficking allegations.
So this is all being laid out. What's happening on the defense side in the courtroom? Combs. His lawyers.
Right. Well, the defense lawyer, Tenny Geragos, started cross-examining Cerciello pretty much immediately.
No waiting around.
No. And Combs himself, he was reportedly very active, writing notes, passing them to his attorneys, clearly engaged.
And the jury's reaction, especially to the video evidence.
Reports indicated they were composed, maintained eye contact, didn't seem to avert their eyes despite the graphic nature.
Okay. So this immediate cross-examination by Geragos.
Yeah.
What's the goal there?
It's crucial. The defense needs to undermine Cerciello's narrative, chip away at the credibility of how this evidence was compiled or interpreted. Maybe they question the data collection, or suggest, innocent explanations for the messages, the money transfers, create doubt.
And just to remind everyone listening, the stakes are incredibly high here. Combs is facing 5 federal counts: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. If convicted on everything, it's potentially at least 15 years. He's pleaded not guilty, of course.
And his lawyer's core argument is that prosecutors are basically misinterpreting what was consensual sexual activity, twisting it into trafficking.
Right.
And, if you step back and look at the bigger picture, there's the past acknowledgement of domestic violence, the history of civil suits. While legally separate things, you have to wonder if that background might subtly influence how the jury perceives alleged power dynamics.
Which is key for the force, fraud, or coercion part of the trafficking charges.
Exactly. Power dynamics are central there. And with the prosecution expected to rest, maybe as soon as tomorrow, the burden really shifts. It's now squarely on the defense to create that reasonable doubt.
Which leads us right to the next phase. The defense. They've signaled their case will be brief.
Remarkably brief, yeah. Potentially just 2 to 5 days is what's been indicated.
Wow. Okay, so what does that tell us? The prosecution rests. The defense plans this quick presentation. We're heading towards closing arguments pretty fast, maybe later this week.
Seems that way. It's moving quickly now.
So the final thought for you, listening.
Yeah, this is something to really chew on. What does this anticipated brevity from the defense actually signal? Are they just super confident they poked enough holes during cross-examination?
Yeah. Or maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe they just want to avoid dragging this out, avoid having even more details aired in court.
It's a strategic calculation either way. Are they minimizing damage, or are they banking on the prosecution not having proved its case beyond reasonable doubt?
A really fascinating question to consider as we wait for the next steps and ultimately the verdict.